I remember the day that my dad passed away. Hi, I'm Zach. So when I was 19, I found out my dad had cancer. He went in for a test, and then those results came back a week later. Going through that process, my dad did chemotherapy for quite a while. It was lung cancer. While he started doing that, it was really, I lived with him at the time, and it was a time for both of us just to we got closer, really kind of grew our friendship in that time. And I just remember, I wasn't really following the Lord, but I just remember praying more than I have in a long time at that point, especially for my dad and for what was going on. Specifically praying for my dad to just be saved. And I was super scared of having that conversation with him. Through my dad's cancer diagnosis, I'd go with him to chemo appointments in the morning. I'd get to hang out with him, be around for him. Eventually, my dad had to have what they call a lobectomy. He had 2/3 of his lung removed to help battle the cancer. And that was about when I was 20. And so for a year, we were in remission. And there's hope. And I just kind of felt at peace about it. And a year later, though, he went in for follow-up, and they found colon cancer. And so my dad had another surgery, removed part of his, I believe, his small intestine. And then we did a 6-month follow-up after that surgery, and they found that cancer had spread throughout most of his intestines and his stomach, I believe, and his colon. And at that point, the only other option was to just let my dad live out the last couple of months. And that was hard. That was a really hard time with me and him, just to see him going through that. But then it was also a hard time for me with God. I was extremely angry that was happening. I was extremely angry at God that he would let that happen. And it was just time for me to process those emotions. In August is when my dad went into hospice. And that was when I knew I had to make that decision to talk with my dad about Jesus and talk with my dad about his salvation. And at the time, I just, for some reason, couldn't. I just didn't feel like I was called to do it or equipped to do it. Luckily, my brother-in-law at the time did have that conversation with my dad. A couple days later, he unfortunately passed away. And that's really when my anger for God took over. But with it really kind of slowed down, the anger towards God, and I really got to work through those emotions and work through just the grief and the loss process in my own time. I ended up going to counseling for it just because I was all over the place with just how I was feeling, depression, and a lot of other thoughts that were going on at that time. But through that process, I saw God's faithfulness in a couple different ways. One was my brother-in-law at the time stepping in to have that conversation with my dad. The other way was just with my and my dad's relationship. I had 2.5 years to process my dad's loss. It wasn't instant, it wasn't overnight, it wasn't something that just happened out of nowhere. And then me and my dad had a great relationship. So I can look back on those things and still be happy with all the memories, all the things that we used to do. Since then, it's just been comforting to know that I can go to God with those emotions and that he cares. In the moment, I felt like he wasn't listening, but I can go back and see that he was, and that he was caring through me, through friends, through family, through other people. And even in those times when I was angry and upset, he still loved me. And I can get to go back and look at those times of when I might start to feel anxious or feel angry now. I can go back to those times and know that God was still there in those times. He's still here with me in these times.